Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey.
This is a horror podcast in which two horror fans discuss all things horror, including news, recent watches, horror collectibles, and more.
I am one of your co-hosts. I am Bubba Casey Kelderman.
And I'm Sam Ho-Tep Lens.
And let's get screaming. What an intro.
That was good.
I'm sorry. I saw these sitting next to me. These are sunglasses.
Hey, it's perfect.
For something we're doing or did.
Yeah.
Depending on when you're listening to this.
Casey, that intro was immaculate. I would like to thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey. Sam, let's just start taking care of business on this episode. We are talking about
TCB.
the double TCB, baby. We're talking about the Bruce Campbell double feature.
The ultimate Bruce Campbell double feature.
Yeah, the ultimate.
The definitive.
Yeah, AKA we'll do an Evil Dead episode down the road.
Yes,
Bubba Ho-Tep from 2002/2003. I think there's conflicting dates on the release of this movie, and even bigger than Evil Dead, bigger than Bubba Ho-Tep, bigger than his cameos in Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Sundown, Vampires, and Retreat. What's the connection besides Bruce Campbell? It's
nothing.
One he fights a mummy, the other he fights vampires, monsters.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Bruce Campbell fighting monsters that aren't deadites. That's the theme here, folks.
Yep. And why are we doing this?
And we have done an Evil Dead episode. We just haven't spoken about the Bruce movies yet.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like,
yeah, eventually. One day.
Eventually. We're making you wait.
But Sam, why are we doing these two movies?
Because we're hosting. I mean, we don't do this live anymore. Tonight, Friday, August 16th at 10 p.m., we're hosting this. Well, Bubba Ho-Tep, not both of these. No. Bubba Ho-Tep at the State Theater for their late night series. This is going to be This is going to be a blast. I can't wait to watch this with a crowd on the big screen. I will. Yeah. That's why we're doing this. I won't get ahead of myself.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this. And if people are listening to this that have attended, hello, welcome. I hope you enjoyed our pre-show that we have planned for you guys. We're not going to spoil it here because we won't spoil it here. If you are going to the show tonight, you're listening to this beforehand, you're in for a treat, or vice versa. We hope you enjoyed it. But the movies we're talking about here, Bubba Ho-Tep is what we're going to kick things off with because one, it's the better of the two movies. Two, it's the whole reason we're doing this double feature.
Yeah.
Expect this going forward. You won't get it next month, I guess, in September, but we did it last month when we did. Oh my God, what was our?
TerrorVision.
TerrorVision. I had a brain fart. I was like, what movie did we do? TerrorVision and Bad Channels. That was tied into Late Night at the State. This episode here, Bubba Ho-Tep and Sundown, the Vampire and Retreat. Is the reason because of Late Night at State that we're doing this episode. Next month, we won't have anything tied into the Late Night at the State just because it's September and it's nutso and too much going on for that.
Honestly, we don't know what we're doing for the podcast in September. Well, we do, but it's easy.
Yeah, you'll get we've talked about it, smaller episodes in September.
Yeah.
But we're going to get a big one here because I have a lot of stuff to talk about and do be doing. We have a lot to talk about with Bubba Ho-Tep and Sundown, Vampires and Retreat. Sam, let's jump into Bubba Ho-Tep first. Kick things off in this double feature. Directed by Don Coscarelli. You might recognize that name from the Phantasm series of films. This movie is written by Don Coscarelli, based on a short novella by Joe Lansdale. I can't even read my own notes. Joe Lansdale, who wrote Bubba Ho-Tep. He wrote the actual short story, Bubba Ho-Tep, same name, and literally got that name because of watching the Boris Karloff mummy movies with the character of Imhotep, and was like, basically, well, what if there was a southern version of a mummy? His name would be Bubba Ho-Tep. And wrote an entire short story, now feature film about that. That's Amazing. Sam, what the hell is the plot of Bubba Ho-Tep?
Bubba Ho-Tep is set in an old folks' home. An old folks' home in which dwells Elvis. He's not dead. He switched with an impersonator, and he forgot to switch back before his impersonator died. So now he is just stuck in this nursing home with a wart on his pecker, with a growth on his pecker. His best friend is
John F. Kennedy,
a senior citizen, John F. Kennedy, who was stitched back together and dropped here.
and had his
skin dyed. He got the Robert Downey Jr. and Tropic Thunder treatment, I guess.
died with a Y, not an I.
Yeah. Ossie Davis is so good at this movie. So funny. He's so good.
But what happens at that old folks' home?
Well, old people start dying, but not of the causes that you would expect. And so Elvis and JFK are like, hey, we're going to investigate. And through their investigation, they find out that there is a centuries-old Southern mummy that is trying to take the souls of all of the residents of this nursing home, and they set out to stop him.
Sucks the souls out of these old people's butts.
Yep.
Actual plot of the movie. Amazing.
Yeah.
Movie stars Bruce Campbell as Elvis Presley, Ossie Davis as John F. Kennedy. These two are just incredible in this movie. This movie is one of the weirdest concepts I think there is for a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's a horror comedy. It's super strange. You can completely understand why Don Coscarelli was just gravitated towards the idea of this movie of Elvis in a nursing home teaming up with JFK to fight an ancient Egyptian mummy who's sucking out the souls of inhabitants of this old people's home.
And I suppose if you've seen any of the Phantasm movies, it shouldn't be that weird because, like, if you've seen one Don Coscarelli just has a unique flair for the oddball. He just takes like odds and ends from all the things he likes and combines them into like glorious cult movies. He's like the actual cult director that Quentin Tarantino thinks he is. Sorry.
All the Tarantino heads who still listen to our show somehow have now shut it off again.
After all the slander, it's hilarious though because I actually love Quentin Tarantino, and I say that every time.
I like him too,
but every time I bring him up on the show, it's me slagging on him, and it's just a natural thing that happens. I don't know. He's an easy guy to slag on.
yeah. But Don Coscarelli, on the other hand, he's an auteur of horror cinema. Have you ever seen interviews or read interviews with Don?
A few here and there.
Yeah. He seems like the coolest dude.
Yeah, he really does.
He just loves weird stuff.
Yeah. I haven't tracked this down, but he has that movie that's like a coming of age movie that's not a Halloween movie, but it has like one sequence set on Halloween. And I've heard so many horror podcasters talking about it. What is it called?
I don't know.
Have you not heard of this?
Maybe. I don't know.
It is called Kenny and Company.
No, I've never heard of this.
Okay. It's a coming-of-age story about the lives of a teenage boy and his friend as they traverse the highs and lows of boyhood in the run-up to Halloween. Apparently, there's like one Halloween sequence in the entire thing, and it's like a kinder trauma moment. Because it's like a PG movie, but it's like a comedy drama.
It's a Don Coscarelli PG movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we should cover it on the show sometime because we can.
We can do that. But okay, opening of this movie starts with a couple title cards saying what the words in the title mean. What is like Hotep is basically like an Egyptian king, part of one of the royal families, and then Bubba is a person from the southern United States.
Yep.
Hilarious. Like tone setter immediately sets the tone of, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we're setting up.
Yep.
And then you have voiceover from Bruce Campbell lying in bed for like the first half of this movie as Elvis, who is describing in depth this growth on his pecker, as he says, that
has pus coming out of it.
Pus coming out of it. That he is named Priscilla.
Oh God, this movie.
Yeah.
The sound design in this is immaculate too, because they have that corticosteroid cream that the nurse keeps putting on it, and like just the sound design of like that cream, like it's so nasty. Like you're just like, it doesn't, it's not a very explicit movie in any way.
No.
Like I was surprised, not necessarily surprised, but it did kind of shock me a little.
Did you want to see the growth on the pecker?
I did not, but I also was like, for whatever reason, I thought this was a PG-13 movie. And then when I was like looking it up after like watching, I'm like, oh no, this is like R. And I'm thinking like, what is R about this movie? Aside from like copious amounts of talking about growth on peckers. You know what I mean?
Good question. Yeah. There's a couple F-bombs. So
yeah, I suppose
for language.
Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, even the gore is pretty.
Yeah, it says language, some sexual content, and brief violent images.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a guy gets lit on fire like 3 times in this movie. Yeah, that could be part of it.
Yeah, I suppose, but I kind of feel like I've seen worse in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but this movie's fun. Yeah. Bruce Campbell he spends the first I'd argue like the first 30 minutes of this entire movie in bed.
Yeah.
As well as most of the residents, honestly.
Yeah, the first half of this movie is really setting up what's our situation here.
Yeah.
How did Elvis get here? Why is he still here? Why is he just laying in bed for the last 20 years? And then you had the setup of Bubba Ho-Tep, the Egyptian mummy, like falling into a truck and as he's being transported, I guess, near this Texas funeral or a funeral home, old people's home, and ends up like realizing, hey, the best place for me to hide out and steal souls to stay alive is just take these old people and take their souls because they're going to die pretty soon anyway, which is kind of a smart. I mean, that's a smart mummy.
Yeah, it's a smart mummy. It's a smart movie, honestly. Like for as ludicrous and dumb as it is at times, it's a pretty clever, like and surprisingly heartfelt movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd seen this a few years ago, and I know you'd seen it quite a while ago. Did you remember the heart that this movie has?
I remember like almost like the melancholy nature of like there isn't a whole lot going on.
Yeah, it really
pretty. I don't want to say it's not a slow movie, but it's very much set up on its characters and their relationship, especially our 2 leads with one another.
It's kind of a droll movie. Like the sense of humor, especially at in the first part, is kind of dry a little bit. Like it's like this kind of dry, like I keep coming back to the word slow, but it's not a slow movie. It's just a deliberate movie.
Yeah.
I so many times watching this, I'm like, this is an insane pick for a late night. Because at its core, like I feel like this movie is actually just like a bromance between 2 senior citizens grappling with the life that they have led before this. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I actually teared up in the third act of this a little bit. Like there were moments, and I was just like, hot damn, this movie is gonna, I don't know how the crowd's gonna react. Like I know they will react to certain things, like obviously with laughter, because this is a very funny movie.
It is.
But like the ending is like you said, kind of melancholy and like cathartic, but not in like a happy ending funny way type of thing, you know?
I think it's a fun ending.
It is.
I mean, the final line.
The final line is really funny.
Is what you want out of this movie.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I want to talk about the flashback sequence with Elvis, where he's talking about how he ended up in the retirement home.
Yeah.
And like how he switched places with Sebastian Half is the name of the Elvis impersonator that he basically switches with. And basically, like, it's when Elvis got too big. He started to get too big. He's like, I'm not having fun being Elvis anymore. There's always people around me. I have to have an entire entourage with me. I missed what this was about in the beginning. It was the music.
Yeah.
And so he somehow finds this Elvis impersonator that's willing to switch places with him. They switch places at this random ass warehouse. And Elvis, our Elvis that we know and love, is now under the Elvis impersonator of Sebastian Half, doing Elvis shows still touring, doing like literally just living the Elvis life still. But he's like living in a trailer house and he's just hanging out with regular folks once again. Then his trailer house blows up.
Yeah. Everything in the flashbacks is so ludicrous. But like
the movie does a good job of making you wonder, is this guy Elvis or is he just a loon?
Yeah, because there's plausibility to everything.
Yeah.
But it's just outrageous enough to be like, are you sure? And they even do the same thing with John F. Kennedy. I mean, like, honestly, like, he's got the scar on the back of his head. Yeah. Like, some of the things in his story check out, and some of the things in his story are just batshit loony.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah.
I'm going to ask the question then, right here, halfway through the discussion.
Okay.
Is Bruce Campbell's Elvis, is that character Elvis?
I am going to say yes. And I'm going to say yes to both of them, actually.
Okay.
I think in this movie, as there's a cowboy mummy, is it that hard to be like, oh yeah, they definitely just like dyed John F. Kennedy's skin a different color and stitched him back up and put him in an old folks home. Like, there's a cowboy mummy walking around. I don't know. What do you think?
Elvis is definitely Elvis. Like, he's the legit Elvis. JFK, I'm
You're on the fence.
I'm on the fence on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. We get this, as Elvis calls him, this big bitch cockroach in the movie that Elvis fights with his bedpan. Delivers, again, some great lines with this. Bruce Campbell obviously is so great at line delivery and just nailing punchlines and nailing one-liners. Never fuck with the king is a great one here.
Yep.
I mean, this is very Bruce Campbell Evil Dead, except super old guy.
Even some of the camera work, like when they go point of view of the scarab. Yeah, like there's some Evil Dead. There's definitely some Evil Dead DNA in this movie. Yeah.
And I know Don and Sam are at least friends, and have like, because what, Phantasm 79?
Yep, Phantasm 79.
Yes, because Blake yelled at me because Phantasm is apparently not an 80s franchise.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically only one of those movies came out in the 80s, which is insane.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, anyway. Which would have been, so 79, and then Evil Dead, the first one was shot right around that same time. So Raimi, Bruce, and Don all came up around that same time and are definitely tied similarly because of Don being connected to the Phantasm series, Bruce being attached to the Evil Dead series, and now in the early 2000s where the Scream sort of horror movie was really what was big, and then we're slowly getting into like J-horror. It's kind of interesting to hear that these two talk about making this movie of, hey, they just wanted to work together. They knew it was kind of going to work out great because they're both professionals. They both knew what they were doing. Also, the world of horror and film was just completely different from when they started 20 years prior. Yeah. And it's interesting to see and hear them talk about that because this movie was made on a $500,000 budget.
Yeah.
And like that's
Insane.
insane. Who's only giving $500,000 to Don Coscarelli and Bruce Campbell?
Yeah. This movie is not, it's not hindered by like its lack of money at
No.
all, but it does kind of,
You can also feel it, but it's not a
yeah,
bad thing.
it's not a bad thing because like it's actually kind of adorable to have a third act that's literally just two senior citizens just driving their motorized scooters over to the like river next to the nursing home to
Yeah.
fight a mummy that's gonna come out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, if anything, the fact that like you can see the seams on the budget adds to the charm because
Yes.
it's a little bit just like they have like what, a grand total of maybe 7 actors in this whole thing total, like speaking lines anyways. Yeah, it's crazy. So and you even get a Reggie cameo from the Phantasm series. He's one of the doctors in the nursing home. He doesn't have his ponytail, but I recognized him. I was like, oh shit, it's Reggie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not catch that. I'm also not a Phantasm head like you are.
I love those movies.
There's another Evil Dead reference in here. I can take that a little bit. There's the Book of the Soul, which is like, I mean, it's straight up, it's the Book of the Dead that this mummy basically is a part of. Even like because like in Evil Dead, all like Egyptian dead lore is part of that as well. Very much a connection to Bruce in the Evil Dead series.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm jumping all over the place, but I love when he reads the incantation at the end.
Yeah.
It's just like a Dr. Seuss poem that doesn't even rhyme that
well. When people die in this movie at the old folks home, I love the two coroners who show up every time and just like making jokes about the people dying. And
yeah, the one literally like trips over the rail of the porch and goes over the ledge with the body.
There's like a goofy ass sound effect too.
Yeah.
Whoop. Whoop.
It's so slapstick. Like, to me, I was watching that and I'm like, okay, that feels like Raimi was like on set with Don one day and or like just in the sound mix even, and was just like, oh, you know, it would be funny. Because that just, I don't know, that especially felt like such a Raimi thing to do.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And if you like, Don has that same sense of humor. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you can just tell, like, not only is it funny in the script of these two guys who just don't take what they're doing very seriously, and it's like they show up every day to pick up a body, but it's like, let's add this goofy ass cartoon sound effect in here.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for that. The like the honky tonk, the like plotting honky tonk music whenever the cops are on in like Halloween 4.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That stuff, I don't know. That stuff, it's cheesy and it's cheap and like maybe a little obvious, but I don't know. It makes me laugh. It goes a long way for me, you know?
Yeah, there's jumping around here because that's all we do. Elvis, his roommate dies and his roommate's daughter shows up. She's not given a whole lot to do.
No.
She's basically there to be like, oh yeah, hey, Elvis has a daughter and he would have left his daughter behind as part of this whole scheme. And like, obviously his daughter thinks he's dead, so she can't come and visit him at all. So it's there to give a little character to Elvis, which I do like. You don't maybe get enough of maybe a redemption, I guess, for the daughter of his roommate.
Yeah.
But it gives little bit of a depth to Elvis and a little bit of his state of mind of being an actual human being, not just a guy who talks about the growth on his pecker.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, this movie is very interested in like dick jokes, like
Yeah.
there's a ton of dick jokes in this movie, but like the underlying theme, like the last conversation that Elvis and JFK have together is like genuinely touching, and it's not about mummies or like or their peckers or anything. It's literally about like their families and like what they like, how they were absent in the later years and stuff. And I just think that's a really fascinating thing to put into a silly B movie. It's kind of, you almost want to say it's like tonally at odds with itself, but somehow it all
It's
works.
not.
Like
Yeah.
Coscarelli like really balances that super well as a director. And I think just the two actors like Bruce Campbell and Ossie Davis are just that good to where they can balance those in their performances too.
Because it's not really played for drama.
Not particularly.
It's more so for character of like, hey, we like these two funny old guys who are fighting a mummy, but we're going to give them a little depth. So you're even more on their side of like, besides being funny old guys, they're
right.
Actual humanity to them.
It makes them not just like caricatures. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's a reason he doesn't put cartoon sound effects behind them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's some great fire stunts in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably where quite a bit of that budget probably went to. Yeah, there's a part, and it's like, so I was watching I have a DVD version. I need to get that Scream Factory version that just came out of Bubba Ho-Tep. So I have the DVD version of this movie. And there's like an entire booklet that's like an interview with Bruce Campbell and has like behind the scenes. And then there's like making of documentaries and featurettes on here. But they were talking about the fire stunts in here. And it's Bruce lighting this guy on fire during these, which is insane.
That's like, insane. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they had we should get this guy's name right, who played the mummy, Bob Ivy, who was a stuntman. He did all the stunts for Bubba Ho-Tep, played Bubba Ho-Tep in all the scenes that we're talking about. But Don Coscarelli was talking about the three big action stunt scenes here. Two of them are him getting lit on fire.
Yep.
The first one is kind of like they're just outside of the retirement home, just in this in the lawn, basically.
Yeah.
And he lights his head on fire, the mummy's head on fire. And then the end of the movie, where they light the whole mummy on fire, and he falls into the lake. Like legit, that's how they put him out. Was just, hey, you got to fall in this lake.
just walk over to the lake and dive in.
Yeah, put yourself out.
Oh my God.
The other big stunt is when Bubba Ho-Tep and Elvis go rolling down the hill. And I found fascinating is obviously Bruce was not a part of that stunt, but Elvis was in the wheelchair, and Bob Ivy as Bubba Ho-Tep is like on top of him, and then they go rolling down. But Elvis is just a dummy in an Elvis costume, but like Bubba Ho-Tep is still the actor, still the stuntman that has to fall down
with the wheelchair. Yeah,
with the wheelchair and this dummy and roll down the hill.
God, that's insane.
That's insane. Stuntmen, like the fact that stuntmen still don't have an Oscar categories is one, insane. I don't know how that's not a thing, but also they just don't get enough recognition in general.
Right. Well, I think they are getting a stunt category this year.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they've actually officially announced one, and I would be surprised.
Are they just going to give it to Tom Cruise? Like what?
Well, I don't think Tom Cruise has a movie this year. Honestly, for my money, I think we can already call it. I think it's going to be Fall Guy, because it's all about stuntmen. It's all about stunts, and they pulled a world record. I think they barrel rolled a car 8 times in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing stunt. And I'm like, I watched that, and like it was maybe a week after I saw the news that they were going to do a stunt category. I'm like, Fall Guys got it. They even play behind the scenes footage in the end credits of like the whole crew behind the camera when that barrel roll happens. and they all just went ape shit. They were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, that's a world record!" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, that's winning the Oscar this year."
All right,
That
fair enough. All right, Oscars. Let's finally do this.
Yep.
The Oscars are TCB, taking care of business.
Yeah.
Sam, do you have any final thoughts on Bubba Ho-Tep before I rattle off some trivia?
Gosh, I don't know. I really love this movie. I love the two leads.
Yeah.
I think their like chemistry and bromance is the reason to see this movie. And the fact that it's just funny as hell. There's nothing like this. I'm excited to see this at the state. Excited to host this at the state. I'm excited to like tickets are going, people. So make sure you get yours. We've already got a crowd gathering for it. So it'll be fun.
We might end up having a bigger crowd than what was at the Elvis concert scenes in this movie.
Yes. I think we will.
Well, I think we might. We might draw a bigger crowd than Bruce. We can say that. That is, I love this movie. I think it's a ton of fun. I hadn't watched this in a very long time, and I was so happy to revisit it. And as I was revisiting it, because I hadn't seen it in a while, I was like, oh, thank God, this is a great late night movie.
Yes. Oh, 100%. It's a weird late night movie, but like in a way that's going to lend itself well to a late night.
Yes. Yeah. So pieces of trivia that I got here. There was a prequel planned at one point.
Okay.
It was called Bubba Nosferatu, Curse of the She Vampires.
Okay.
Yep.
Into that. I'm very into that. Yeah.
Yep. There was a cut character from the original Joe Lansdale story in the nursing home. It was the real life person, John Dillinger.
Okay.
With a sex change. But the character cut from the movie, probably budgetary wise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We talked about Bruce Campbell using the bedpan to fight the big bitch cockroach, and
yes.
he didn't just use that to fight the Egyptian beetle. He also used the bedpan.
Gross.
They were apparently shooting a scene that had a ton of lights on Bruce and a ton of setup on it, and they're like, you can't get up, you can't move, like you need to stay here. And he's like, well, I gotta go to the bathroom. And so he told Don Coscarelli, he's like, hand me that bedpan. and he used the bedpan. Hey,
that's what it's there for, right?
Yep.
That bashing big ass beetles.
And then the last thing, the first question Bruce Campbell asked after he read the script to Don Coscarelli was, do we get to see the penis?
I'm glad they don't, because it's a funny gag, and I don't think it would have been as funny had they like paid off with a gross out. Yeah. It's gross enough, movie. Like with the imagination and the sound design of the corticosteroid cream, and yeah.
Uh-huh.
You see that wiener in your head. So
in your head, you imagine that pecker.
Yep.
All right, Sam, how many gross on a pecker are you giving Bubba Ho-Tep?
I give Bubba Ho-Tep 4 out of 5 gross on a pecker. How about you?
I give it 3.5. My only complaint, I guess this is my final thought on it. My only complaint, and I know it's a budgetary thing because Don literally said it in the like behind the scenes making of. This movie needed an Elvis song to play over the credits.
Yeah.
It needed it. It would have apparently cost half the movie's budget to do it.
That doesn't surprise me either.
But I think to get it to that next level, if it ended like with him giving the final line, thank you very much, because then basically credits come up right after that. If you had an actual Elvis song play, I think it would have just added that final little oomph.
Oh, I have one more thought.
Okay.
Because we were talking about the ending. I think the hieroglyphics with the subtitles whenever the mummy speaks, hilarious.
Yeah. They're super cool.
It's so good. Like
Yeah.
it's such a cool visual, and then like the subtitles that actually say what they're hilarious. I love it. I'm not going to spoil any of them. You'll have to come to the State Theater
Yeah,
to to
they're a
check
ton
those
of fun.
out.
They're very
Yeah.
2002, but they're a ton of fun.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so our next movie in this double feature of the Chin, it is Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat from 1989, I believe.
Yes. 89.
Yes. Okay.
89.
I didn't write that down. Good guess. Directed by Anthony Hickox, who directed Waxwork. He also directed Hellraiser 3: Hell on Earth.
Yeah.
It is co-written by John Burgess and Anthony Hickox. So this movie kind of got a little bit of a revitalization here in the last couple of years because of the Vestron collection series that basically it was the Walmart series. You'll kind of see these. Chopping Mall was the first one that was a part of it a couple years ago. This is one of their titles that came out, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. It's it was from a couple years ago.
Yeah, this is their
I don't have mine with me.
21st one, it says on the side.
Yeah, Chopping Mall was their number one.
Yes, it was. I love the Vestron ones because one, they're affordable.
Yes.
Collector's
That's
editions.
a big one.
I mean, they're still packed with tons of special features, new stuff on all of them, incredible slipcase artwork on all of them, and they're like for a single movie $13 at Walmart when you buy.
Oh yeah.
So I love that. You can buy like 4 packs of movies for like $20. Like they're super affordable. I love what they're doing with that Vestron series. But that's kind of where I first found out about this movie, was looking at that, and I was like, oh shit, Bruce Campbell plays Van Helsing in this movie. I need to buy it. Blind bought it. Had a ton of fun watching it for the first time. But what is this movie about? Because I think a lot of people probably don't know what this movie is, because it really didn't have a wide release at all when it first came out, and is really, I think most people have probably watched it because of this Vestron Blu-ray release.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't even heard of it before the Blu-ray release. So.
Yeah, neither have I. So this is about the town of Purgatory, which is inhabited solely by the soulless vampires of the night. When a young family moves to town to help produce a synthetic blood alternative, the mystery of the undead begins to unravel in the town of Purgatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
Go ahead.
So what do you think overall of this movie?
It's fine. This movie's fine. There's a lot of great ideas, I think, here.
Yes.
There's a great movie in this movie somewhere.
Yep.
And it's one of those where, you know what people talk about, why don't we remake movies that didn't do very well and just put a new spin on them and make them better?
This is prime for that.
This is one of those movies.
Yes.
First of all, I want to talk about the title.
Oh, it's bad title. It's a bad title.
It's so bad that I wrote it down wrong in my notes. The movie's title is Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat, singular, vampire. The one I wrote down was Sundown, Vampires in Retreat.
Which would make even more sense as a title to this movie.
Because there is a lot more than one singular vampire in this movie.
Yes. Pretty much everybody except for the main family. And Bruce Campbell, but by the end, Bruce Campbell is. Yeah.
I don't understand. Who is the vampire in Retreat?
No one. None of the vampires retreat.
Right?
None of them back down. Yeah. It's a bad title.
It's a bad title
for a really fun. Well, okay, for a very fun movie.
It is a fun movie
that sometimes.
It's a bit all over the place.
There's one storyline that I just cannot stand in this movie, and every time they come back to it, I'm just like, move on from this. This is bad.
We have the same one, I'm sure.
Is it just the beef between the main protagonist and the main antagonist?
So my biggest problem with Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat, besides the title, our main protagonists of this movie, I didn't even write their names down.
His name is David, I believe.
David? Okay, sure. the whole so it's a family. It's a husband and wife, probably like mid-30s, and they have 2 younger girls under 10 years old. And basically, they, like I said, they moved to this town because the dad is a scientist, I guess, who's working on this like synthetic blood, and like has these investors in the town of Purgatory, I guess is what the setup is. Turns out they're all vampires, and they want the synthetic blood so they don't have to consume human blood. They can just have this synthetic one that they can chemically create.
They're trying to incorporate themselves into the human world. They don't want to be at war with humans anymore,
which I love. I think that's a super cool concept, because the movie like you have
the 3 guys in the gas station.
3 guys at the gas station. The first vampires you see, they all have these giant, I wrote it down what they were wearing. Giant ass hat.
Yep.
One of them has a sombrero on.
Yeah, like a huge sombrero. Yeah.
They have sunglasses on. They have like work gloves, long sleeves, copious amounts of sunscreen all over their face. They use umbrellas or canopies to cover. But basically, these vampires have all this stuff on so they can sort of be in the sun. They're in the shade, but it's not like immediate sunlight. It'll kill them. It'll eventually kill them if they're in it for too long. But they can wear, like we said, copious amounts of sunscreen and basically covering themselves from the sunlight, and they'll be fine. Which I love. Super cool concept. I love the idea of Purgatory, and that's the entire town of like these vampires. All right, we are eventually gonna integrate ourselves into humankind as best as we can. My problem, though, is the main family of this movie is so unnecessary to the actual plot.
Oh, God, it's terrible, yeah.
You could literally pluck them out of this movie, and it would be the exact same thing.
And for that, you could pluck Shane right out of it, too. The like, creepy...
I think he's fine if he was... So my pitch for this movie, to make it better, is Van Helsing is your protagonist.
Well, yeah. That should be the number one thing.
The basic, right? Especially if you have Bruce Campbell, they're like not just a cameo. He's a character in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's there the entire runtime of the movie. He was probably there the entire time of shooting. How do you not make him your main lead?
Yes.
Makes no sense to me. He's already integrated into, all right, Van Helsing kills Dracula. Like that's his whole goal, killing vampires. But what happens when he falls in love with a vampire who's part of this group that's trying to integrate themselves to be better and not just be killing humans, but they want to be part of that, versus a group who's like, no, vampires need to take over the world. We're the superior race. Mm-hmm. That's a cool movie.
It's a very cool movie.
Instead
you have Business McWhitecollar and his old college buddy arguing over who slept with his wife. Yeah. And it's just like gross and kind of misogynistic the whole way through. And you're just like, am I supposed to root for either of these guys? Because both of them are kind of just douchebags.
Yep.
And the wife is just kind of there. She's not doing anything in particular one way or the other. The kids, I kind of forget that they even have kids in the movie, to be honest with you.
They literally tell the kids in the third act to go hide.
Yes, and then the kids are just non-existent for the third act. Yeah. Why even have them have kids? Well, because they can do the like, oh, she's my daughter, which is so terrible. Like, I'm just like, don't do that. Don't do that, like, whole subplot. And this movie is like a solid 4 stars. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating when they keep going back to it. And I thought it was going to be like a one-off thing in the first act. No, it plays into the entire damn movie for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, because
their final confrontation isn't even that cool.
No, it's not. It's pretty late.
Yeah.
Because that's not the main confrontation of the movie.
No. The main characters aren't even the main characters.
Yes, exactly. David Carradine is really the lead of this movie.
Yeah, he's really good in this too.
He's really good in this. He's really good in this movie. I think he's having an absolute blast. He plays what we eventually find out is Dracula. I guess this would be the vampire in retreat.
I suppose.
I guess maybe is what the original idea is
Because
that
he's trying to he's trying to retreat and learn how to be human again, and kind of a cool ending with that in mind. I don't know.
And they get there's a super cheesy redemption at the end. It's fun. It's fun. I liked it.
It's kind of cool, actually. Yeah.
But that's the main plot of the movie, and then you have all this BS love triangle stuff, and it just really bogs the movie down.
Mm-hmm.
We get introduced to all these the people of the town, and maybe there's not enough time with them because of the family drama stuff, or maybe we have too much of the people in town. I don't know. But you have the British scientists that are very prim proper vampires who are the ones creating the synthetic blood, and it's 3 of them, and they're all interchangeable.
Yes.
And it's what who are you guys?
Yeah, why are we spending time with these characters? Why are we there's a lot of that where it's there's almost just too many things going on to where you can't really latch on to any one thing. Mm-hmm. If they would have just excised a lot of the external side characters and we said the group of main characters and just focused on the characters that really pop, I think they would have had just something incredible here, because the stuff that's incredible really is incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
The world is so cool. The idea is so cool. The whole sequence at the gas station that ends with Merle punching the dude's head clean off is so good. It's so funny. It sets a really good tone that about half of the rest of the movie delivers on.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you I believe it's the other couple, there's another couple in this movie. I forget about them.
They're just pretty much locked in a jail cell for most of it.
Yeah, for most of it. They are so unnecessary. I don't know why they're in this movie. And then they're in
there for exposition dump. And that's what it is. They're in there for the explanation of if you haven't gotten it yet, the whole town's full of vampires.
If you're a real big dummy and can't figure it out for yourself. So unnecessary. They're more unnecessary to this than the main family, but not by much.
Yes.
Because again, that main family, they move into this house that we find out is owned by Dracula, that has a hidden passageway between Dracula's house across the street, I guess.
Yeah, the parents are super chill about that. Oh my god.
Yeah. So David Carradine's Dracula is just there in their living room at one point, because he goes through the secret hidden passage between the two houses, and he explains what he's oh, I was down there. My mother is down there in her casket, and I tend to her. And just make sure everything's hunky-dory or whatever, and he's just shows up in their house. It's okay, cool. And the mom is super chill about it.
Yeah, ridiculously chill. I'm chill. There's you found out there's a secret passageway that leads to your home. Your daughters were playing in the other room, and you didn't even know that they were able to go into the secret passageway, let alone that someone else was able to follow them back.
And that there's a dead body in that secret passageway.
No kidding. There's so many red flags there. What the hell? And the mom's just oh, thank you.
Thanks. My
children have wild imaginations. And I'm half of their story was true. You should probably verify the other half.
I want to talk a little bit about the scene where the two girls discover Dracula in the secret passageway.
Oh god, yeah.
Okay. I don't like to harp on child actors.
It's pretty hokey.
But they're not good.
No.
There's the one girl who's obsessed with vampires, the blonde one.
Yeah.
Who keeps going ma 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 ma. I'm what? What are you trying to direct her to even do? I'm not even blaming the actress on this.
It reminded me of the SpongeBob the Man Ray episode. That ma 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 ma.
Yeah. It was awful. Awful
That's
stuff.
that's why they just had him hide for the third act. Yeah, they make like a big deal in the opening about the daughter like drawing these horrible pictures and being obsessed with creepy things and monsters, and then that just never comes up again.
Yeah.
Never.
And like the dad is like so angry about it too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's a dickhead. Like then you had the mom like buying, like they explain like the mom bought all these horror movie posters and action figures,
hardcore Italian like giallo posters for this like 6-year-old kid. Amazing.
Like
just
right
amazing.
above her bed is like taste the blood of Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's a cool mom. Terrible mom, but that's a cool mom.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right, let's get to the best. I want to get to that's most of the bad stuff in this movie. We need to talk about the good stuff.
We've ragged on it enough.
Because there is a lot of good stuff in this movie.
Armies of vampires getting driven by like giant hearse car things. Like...
Yeah. This movie, it's a Western. Like this movie is a Western. The best parts of it are when it's a Western. Set in modern 80s, modern times. But again, it's like it's Hatfields and McCoys, both vampires, and it's awesome. And you maybe could have played up like maybe Romeo and Juliet into there as well, if in a better version of this movie, because you have Bruce Campbell who plays Van Helsing, or he's a descendant of Van Helsing, and he's after vampires. You know the story of obviously Van Helsing, but he falls in love with this woman who's the like typical diner.
Yeah. You know who I just figured that out that was?
Who?
I've been following along on IMDb. That is Deborah Foreman, aka Muffy, the girl who's throwing the party in April Fool's Day.
Yes.
She's the one that orchestrates the whole thing. I was watching this whole movie going like, she looks familiar.
She is Valley, like
she's the Valley girl.
Lead in Valley Girl. Yeah.
Yep. It just took me a while. Oh my God, that's
great.
So cool.
She's great in this movie, has a great look. Bruce Campbell is obviously leading man material.
Yes.
Their makes no sense that
off the charts.
It is.
It's so good. Like I want a cut of this movie that is just the two of them in the middle of this Civil War. Yes.
That's the movie this should have been. Because like Bruce Campbell shows up, and I love that the lead into the town is this gas station. Because everybody stops at the gas station on their way in. And it's, again, 3 old guys.
Who are supposed to alert the rest of the town, but aren't very good at their jobs.
Terrible at it. And you have Bruce, whose car breaks down like miles down the road, and shows up, and he takes off one of his boots. And just like a mound of sand comes out of it.
A ridiculous amount of sand comes out. It's so funny.
And just very clearly knows these guys are not going to help him at all.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys wouldn't want to give me a ride back into town, would you?
Nope.
Didn't think so.
Oh yeah. He just, every time he's on screen, this movie just like kicks into high gear. Him and Deborah Foreman are just, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
I love that she turns him. I genuinely didn't see that coming. Yeah. I was like, that's such a fun, like, I don't know.
Subversion of Van Helsing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I don't know. I love that. That was
again,
so cool.
If he was the lead, we would have, I think, one of the great vampire movies of the 80s. Like people would be talking about this movie a lot more if
this would be up there with Lost Boys and like Near Dark and Fright Night. Yeah.
And it'd be completely different than all of those. Because again,
exactly
the 2 warring sides of vampires. You have Van Helsing in the middle with a love interest. He gets turned.
Yep.
Fights the good fight with the good vampires. Like that's the movie. And so his scene where he gets turned, Bruce Campbell turning on his Evil Dead 2 Three Stooges act here and just like screaming at the top of his lungs is so funny.
Yeah. Oh man.
He's so good in this movie.
He is. Like this is just him I hesitate to say he knows he's not in a very good movie, but
Oh,
like
he knows what kind of movie
he
he's in.
knows what kind of movie he's in, and he definitely leans into the hokiness. He leans into the overacting, the hamminess. Like he knows that this movie needs a shot of the hand scene from Evil Dead
Yeah.
2, and he
Yes.
just puts that through his whole performance, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's like it's almost the opposite of his performance in Bubba Ho-Tep, which is kind of like it's still
Very
funny,
restrained.
but it's restrained. It's reserved. Like you don't have a lot of like Bruce Campbell doing Bruce Campbell things, although funny like sound
He,
effects and like
he
him
has
trying to.
he has the quips in that.
Yes, but
Played
like,
straight. Here, he doesn't really get quips.
but he
It's
plays everything so
so
silly.
big.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's again so many great concepts in this movie, and one we kind of talked about is like the army of vampires on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like these vampires. Maybe they're the vampires in retreat.
Maybe.
Still trying to figure this out because they're like hidden in like caves out in the desert, and they're like the traditional monstrous vampires.
Yeah, they just come into this movie about 40 minutes in, just randomly, and you're just like,
Just all of a sudden
okay.
a bunch of them down in a cave. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, has this been established? No, we're just learning about. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like it just happens.
Yeah. And I think like the only one we've seen before that is Shane, the
rapey McDouchebag.
Rapey McDouchebag. Yeah.
Yeah. God, I don't like that character. I wish he wasn't in this movie.
He has one good scene that we got to talk about. We'll talk about it in a minute. But other good ideas when you have the I love that you have the scene where the family is trying to leave town. I wish they would have just left because they're so unnecessary to this movie.
Yeah.
But basically, you have all the bad vampires coming in on one side of the town, riding in on horseback. And then you have no. Do they have the cars, the vehicles? I can't remember. Anyway, but then you have David Carradine's crew rolling up. They might be on horse. Doesn't matter.
I think Carradine's is on horse. I think the bad guys are on like a motor vehicle, motorcade.
Carradine rolls up with his crew, looking all badass. They roll up with these crossbows. Looks super cool. Looks just like a Western. It's awesome. You have the bad vampires have wooden bullets, which I think is a cool concept.
Yeah. And none of the vampires at first take them seriously because they're just like, oh, it's guns. And then they shoot the first person. And, I know that the movie has to kind of explain why all of a sudden they're perceptible to bullets or why they're not imperceptible to bullets, but it does kind of like ruin the moment a little bit. And when they're like, guns won't do anything, and then they shoot the guy dead, and then Shane just has that like, but not with wooden bullets. And I'm like, oh God, get this guy out of this movie. Like,
I think it's fine that that one of the characters explains that they're wooden bullets. Yeah, but
I suppose so.
He's the worst. Another cool weapon that they use. It's our what's her name in the movie? Valley Girl. I'm just gonna call her Valley Girl.
It's Sandy.
Like, okay.
Like the pecan Sandys.
Or like Sandy from Grease. Sandy, she uses an umbrella to kill one of them.
Oh, that scene is awesome.
It's so great. Yeah.
It like
great
unfolds
kill.
Outside out of them. Yeah. So cool.
And then you have the final showdown between the two sides. It's literally a gunslinger battle. Everyone else, we're gonna stop fighting. 1-on-1. We're gonna draw. One of us shoots to win. Shot just like a Western. Looks incredible.
Yeah.
It's a great setup for this, and it's a great scene. It's a great ending that has nothing to do with that family you set up as the leads in your movie.
Yep. Marjolac reveals himself to be Dracula, and you're like, well, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
It's great. David Carradine is just so good in this movie. Like, I kind of wish we would have gotten more Dracula from him, if I'm being honest. Like, he's a solid Dracula.
Yes. Especially with the interesting trivia of him being drunk the entire time they were shooting this movie.
I could see that.
He does a great job.
He does, yeah. But yeah, no, I was gonna make clearly drinks wine joke, but decide against it.
Should have gone for it. You should have gone for it. I would have laughed.
Should have gone for it. There was an opportunity there, and I biffed it.
You biffed it.
I didn't have confidence, and I stumbled over it.
You bit the bullet. You didn't bite the bullet on it, I guess. Yeah.
I bit the wooden bullet.
Yep. Pieces of trivia, I guess, and because one of them I want to talk about. My favorite scene with Shane, the only good scene with him. Tony Gardner did the special effects for this movie.
Okay. Yeah.
You might know him as the child,
the Chucky guy. Yeah.
The Chucky guy. He helped do the stop motion, which there's a great stop motion scene where Shane's vampire turns into a vampire bat and has a Ray Harryhausen stop motion fight with the mom.
Yeah. Everything with the bat in that scene is so cool. Like, I love the effects and the
effects for that are great. Anytime you see a bat flying in the sky, though, it's just they're not moving. It's just wings flapping in the same spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I had for. There's not actually a whole lot of trivia on this movie.
Yeah. No, not really.
Just because maybe there's not a whole lot on this movie. Like, it feels pretty.
It feels like it feels like a quickie, like a one and done kind of thing that they just did, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I watched like the special features on the Blu-ray, and Anthony Hickox is interviewed on it, and he says this is his favorite movie he's done. And it's because he's a massive Western fan. And that makes sense because the best parts of this movie
are the Western parts.
Are the Western parts of this. Yeah, I mean, we're beating a dead horse here now of saying how this would be a better movie, but it would just be a better movie. Take out the melodrama of the families, focus on Van Helsing and Sandy as the two leads, the two warring factions of vampires, and like that's your movie there. That's your movie. How many? I don't know what's our goofy thing for this one. How many
wooden bullets?
Wooden bullets, yeah.
Yeah,
how many shoes full of sand do you give
I give this 3.5 shoes full of sand out of 5. It definitely has its issues, but like the world and the story is so inventive that I don't know. I can't help but admire it. 80s comedies are a vibe. This one's maybe on a little lighter side. It's a little bit like Once Bitten for me, where it's like I like this more than Once Bitten. It's way better than Once Bitten, but like it's kind of one of those. And as much as I love Teen Wolf, it's kind of one of these too, where it's like I watch these every once in a while. You know, like if I'm in the mood for just like a light fluff of an 80s comedy, these are kind of the ones I'll go for because they've got like the spooky elements to them, but they don't really require a lot of brain power to watch. Yeah. What do you give this out of 5 sand-filled shoes?
I also gave this 3.5. I think there's a ton of good stuff in this that makes me like, yeah, I like watching this. I like the good stuff. It does outweigh the bad in this movie, but the bad is bad. Like it's not, the bad is pretty bad in this movie. And if there was a different version of this out there, like I said, I think it would go down as one of those like great vampire movies of the 80s. Oh, one thing we did not talk about, I want to mention quick though, the score. Okay. The score for Sundown is incredible.
It's so good.
Bruce talked about in his interview, he's like, when I first heard the score, I don't know who did the score for this movie, but he told him, he's like, you shouldn't have done it for this movie.
I mean,
and if that's not a compliment for how great the score is in Sundown, I don't know what is, because the score is incredible. It makes this feel big. It makes it feel very, very big and sweeping. It makes it feel like a huge Western. It's a great score.
It's from Richard Stone. Oh, he died early in 2001 at age 47.
Oh, wow.
But he is the composer to the theme music for the Animaniacs.
Okay, yeah.
Which totally makes sense because that theme song rules.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So cool. They still, yep, and Pinky and the Brain. Oh, and Freakazoid. Okay, he was like the composer for a ton of like those.
All the Fox.
Yeah, the Fox.
Saturday morning.
He did a lot of Looney Tunes. A lot of Looney Tunes. Oh my god. Yeah, this guy has some. And then
heavy hitters. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad. Oh, and he did the score for Pumpkinhead, which is an amazing score. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Richard Stone, underrated.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Well, great job, Richard Stone. It's one of the best parts of the movie. That's for sure. It's much better than the title of the actual movie, Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat.
Yes. All right. Casey, it's time to move on to our next thing.
Okay.
There's been so much Screaming Mad news, but I didn't put anything in the show notes. Yeah. So, just
fine.
Read Fangoria and Bloody Disgusting like we do. Casey, what have you been doing? I see you've got a laundry list here. And some of these movies I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on. I don't know if they're first time watches or not, but
oh, okay. I have a couple of them. The first thing, maybe this can kind of go into Screaming Mad news because like we're in the spooky season. We're there. Spirit Halloween finally opened. I say finally. It's the middle of August. I don't know if you've been yet.
I have not. I was going to.
I know I sent you pictures of stuff you are definitely going to buy.
Yeah.
There's a ton of new stuff there this year. We went for our first go around the second day that it opened. My big thing was the Terrifier stuff. It's the first year of all the Terrifier stuff. I've been sipping out of this Terrifier 2 cup this entire time. You can probably see over my shoulder here. There's an Art Krispies.
Yep.
It's basically a cereal box, but it's a wall decor. Art's sunglasses on top of that. Bunch of other stuff that we bought. It's awesome. Love it. Gonna be back. You can see us on TikTok for all the cool stuff I ended up buying. I'm sure we'll do other haul videos when you go, and we'll definitely go together at some point to Spirit. But it's open. It's open, people.
Hell yeah.
Spooky season's here. All right, so I have a couple movies on my list. There's a couple new watches on here. The first one that is a new watch for me, first time watch, I should say, Mama from I don't know,
Andy Muschietti.
Andy Muschietti's Mama from like
2013.
2013. Oh my God. Okay.
I think
that sounds right. My Letterboxd review for Mama was meh.
What?
It's pretty meh. It's fine. I think Mama is fine.
Oh, you still gave it 3 stars. I'm okay with that.
I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was watchable. It's not very scary. It's also just not very interesting.
I disagree. I really like this one, but I get it. It's different. It's a little bit.
It feels very generic for me because I've watched so many of these, especially from that post Insidious and Conjuring era where everybody was doing some sort of supernatural ghost type movie.
I'm just a big fan of like goth rocker Jessica Chastain. Like,
I also didn't buy Jessica Chastain as goth rocker.
Oh, I did. I love her in this movie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I get it.
It was fine. Mama just didn't totally work for me. I just don't think Andy Muschietti as a director does a whole lot for me.
That's also fair.
Yeah, because like I like It Chapter 1, but it's not really. It's because I love the story of It, and I think all the kids are really great. Not really the direction, and I think Bill Skarsgård's incredible in that movie.
He's so good.
Part 2 is not very good.
I like Part 2 for what it is, but yeah.
Anyway, Mama, it was fine. Rewatch. I feel like I watch this like every summer. It's like one of those summer movies that we just always pop on. Piranha 3D.
Amazing. I love this movie.
This movie is a ton of fun. Aja, right? Alexander Aja did this one. I mean, it from the opening of Richard Dreyfuss parroting the opening of, or parroting Jaws in this opening.
Yeah,
you know exactly what kind of movie this is gonna be. It's super sleazy. It's just so much fun. There's a huge cast, huge ensemble cast. I always forget Adam Scott's in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, Adam Scott's in this.
The movie stops for like 5 whole minutes in the middle of it just so you can watch 2 naked girls swim together through a porthole.
Yeah, and it's actually like really beautifully shot.
It is. It's like the score and the way it's like,
it looks like Shape of Water.
Yeah, it's so like, it's such a weird movie.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
I love that one.
You have my 2 favorite characters in this, though. One of them doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. Eli Roth is like the host of the wet t-shirt contest. That's all he does.
Yep.
But then Jerry O'Connell, who plays like the director of this porno that they're shooting. He's
so sleazy.
So sleazy. He's so funny in this movie. He's having an absolute blast. Like, I wish he would show up in more stuff like this, because he is having just hamming it up, delivering super funny lines, clearly like coked out of his mind. At least the character is. He's so much fun.
Have you seen Satanic Panic?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't love that movie, but his whole sequence in that movie is incredible. Like, I love Jerry O'Connell's stuff in that movie. And it's like bringing the same energy as he brings to Piranha. Yeah.
Yep. And from what I've seen a little bits of and pieces of him on whatever talk show he's on, is it The View? Maybe?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
One of those talk shows on ABC or CBS, whatever. One of those morning ones. He's on that. He's given that same energy on those too.
That rules.
Yeah, Piranha 3D, ton of fun. It's a blast. Rewatched Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. I love this movie. It's beautiful. Super underrated in his filmography.
I still haven't seen it.
Well, we should do an episode on it. It's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, it's not it's a horror movie, but it's like it's more of a gothic romance.
Yeah.
Than anything else. We both rewatched. Well, you watched for the first time. I rewatched The Sixth Sense, the M. Night Shyamalan classic. You can go check out our whole episode that we did with Andy Heller over at Fat Dude Digs Flicks. We did a whole, it was like over 2 hours long.
Yes, it was. It was longer than the movie.
Yeah, much longer than the movie. I love this movie. 5 stars. It's an all-timer for me.
This is good.
Yeah. We both watched another M. Night Shyamalan movie. Our third one, I believe.
Our third one together, yeah.
Together.
Because we did Old Knock and then this one, yeah.
And then this one, yeah. Trap. We watched Trap. I thought it was okay. I wanted to love this movie. I didn't. I think Josh Hartnett is incredible in it. I think he's having, again, an absolute blast. I just love that M. Night is still making movies like this. Wholly original stuff that only M. Night Shyamalan can. For me, it falls apart a bit in the third act. And that's what I'm not going to say much else. Like,
yeah,
it's still in theaters. I still recommend people go watch this stuff.
I feel like you and I feel like Old, we were kind of opposite ends of the spectrum where like, I don't think either of us thought that one was like a masterpiece, but I think you came away more positive than I did.
Yeah, I had
and then
blast with that one.
Knock at the Cabin, I feel like we were kind of like similar where we're like, oh, it was really good up until about like the third act, you know, like it kind of lost a little steam towards the very end. And this one, I feel like we have gone like complete like 180 where I'm like, Trap is going to make my top 10 of the year probably. And you were like, it's fine.
Yeah.
This movie just worked for me. It felt very mid 2000s.
Oh yeah.
In like the best way. Like I love thrillers like this. You know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of Cellular with like Chris Evans and Jason Statham and Kim Basinger, or like Statham as Kim Basinger locked up in his attic, and all she's got is this old or like this old phone that she manages to get through to Chris Evans's cell phone. And I like that type of thriller, or like Phone Booth with Colin Farrell, like those types of like high concept, I say low budget, but this was not low budget. action thrillers. Like I enjoy these so much. Logistically, this movie falls apart if you think about it for more than about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I've never gone to an M. Night movie for realism. So I didn't care. I thought there were cameos in this and like surprise appearances that were really funny and really well done. And frankly, I thought his daughter kind of killed it in the movie. I thought she was really good. Amazing songs. Like genuinely, I thought the soundtrack to this movie was solid. Like it feels like actual pop songs that you would expect an arena full of teenage girls to be super into. And I don't know. I loved that it was kind of a love letter to his daughter in so many ways. It kind of got a little metatextual at points, just like with the story and what was going on and how he was framing everything. It was, I don't know. This movie, I haven't really stopped thinking about it since we watched it, and I've definitely heard all the complaints about the third act, and I don't think it's as focused as the first two acts are, but I think there are a lot of interesting ideas in it. And so I don't know. I give this one a pretty high recommend. Yeah. I love Trap. So yeah, we'll probably talk about it at the end on our end of the year episode.
I will definitely rewatch it, and maybe I'll have a little bit different experience now that I know what's gonna happen. Yeah,
I get that. I feel like when I revisited Old, that's kind of what happened with me, where I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, and I liked it a lot more on like a second one. I feel like that's kind of Shyamalan with me in general, though. Like the more I watch Shyamalan, a Shyamalan movie, the more I'm like, yeah, I get it. Except for After Earth and The Last Airbender, those can die in the bargain bin forever.
Next two movies. Well, I guess whatever. Next couple movies. We're going back into the world of Full Moon. Full Moon Corner, yay! One of them I watched was the '90s film, The Killer Eye, starring one of our favorite scream queens, Jacqueline Lovell.
Yeah.
And the movie is directed by David Dakota, who, if you know anything about David Dakota movies, he loves men with their shirts off. And this movie, The Killer Eye, has a lot of it. It is basically Jacqueline Lovell and a bunch of gay dudes fighting a giant eyeball. And
sounds amazing.
It's a ton of fun. Me and Kayla both watched it. We had a lot of fun. It's a very horny movie. The eyeball is very horny. Jacqueline Lovell is very horny for gay men, and the gay men are very horny for each other. The Killer Eye. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. This movie looks amazing.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's like late 90s Full Moon, so a quarter of their budget of the earlier Full Moon stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I saw 99 and I was like, okay, I know what to expect in this.
It's not Head of the Family.
Yeah.
Not even hideous. It's the next step.
Yep.
We both watched the brand new Full Moon movie that comes out next week, Friday, on Tubi, Amazon Prime, their streaming service, Blu-ray, DVD, apparently even VHS. It is their new film, Quadrant, which is directed by Charles Band, and it is the first film in their pulp noir series, which is kind of more their noir type venture into cinema. This movie is about Quadrant, which is like this alternate AI, alternate reality machine that basically sends you into this AI world. And one of the people who goes into this machine believes she's like haunted or somehow connected to Jack the Ripper. Yeah, basically like starts to relive the killings of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
We just did literally as we're recording this right now. Literally an hour and a half ago, we finished a recording with screenwriter C. Courtney Joyner. So that'll drop next Friday when the actual movie drops. So a nice companion piece. Great chat with Courtney Joyner, who has written so much stuff for Full Moon. Like I told him in our well, before our interview, I didn't say it in the interview. I was like, I have literally 2 of the 3 posters on my wall are from your movies.
Yeah. And he's like a cinema history buff too. So there's a lot of like just really insightful stuff about the industry and just like
super
what's
great
changed.
Yeah.
Including the amount of zeros on paychecks.
I'm sure it's not just for him. I'm sure it was the same for Jacqueline Lavelle from the 3 movies that I mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Jacqueline Lavelle, she was in this movie from 2013, I think 2014, something like that. Trophy Heads, which is a full moon movie, basically stars a bunch of scream queens as versions of themselves. Like I said, including Jacqueline Lavelle, Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley, and so many other great scream queens. They all play versions of themselves who are killed off one by one by this obsessed fanboy who like basically is trying to recreate iconic scenes from their movies. And Trophy Heads is a blast. It's a ton of fun. All the gals are having an absolute blast playing versions of themselves. Linnea Quigley plays like Sister Linnea is what she calls herself. She's basically a born again Christian in this movie. She's super funny. My favorite part though is Jacqueline Lavelle and Denise Duff from the Subspecies series have this banter, and it's like you can tell like they're going on the same auditions as each other. They kind of have this friendly, not so friendly rivalry with one another. It's super funny. The banter that those two have is great.
That rules.
And then I watched the movie Delta Delta Die. Again, it is technically a full moon movie. It's one of their like sub labels, I guess. This movie's fine. It's definitely a riff on Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama. Brink Stevens plays a house mother in this one who returns back to the house and basically has to stop the evil house mother who is kidnapping boys from the college and killing them, and they're basically turning all these boys into ground meat to put in their meat pies.
I mean, that's a fun concept.
Mm-hmm. Super sleazy. It's a fun concept. The movie's not very great. Yeah. Do we want to say why we've been watching these yet?
We can.
Do you have any on here yet?
I haven't been talking about them. Okay. Just because we'll be talking about them, but yeah, I've watched a few.
Okay.
I'm just holding my cards close to my chest, but we can announce the topic.
Okay. That's fine. I feel like we're going to be very copacetic on our.
Probably. It's probably going to go like our other live one.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we've been teasing, and the name I keep bringing up like every week as I'm watching these, and Sam, I know you've watched a couple of them. We keep bringing up the name Brink Stevens, who is one of the big 3 scream queens of the 80s and 90s, and even up until modern times. Yeah. So Brink is going to be a guest at Little Con of Horrors in Omaha on September, I believe it's the 14th and the 15th, right after Friday the 13th. And this is a horror convention. She's one of the 2 big guests there. We've been gracious enough to have been asked to do a live podcast there. So we are going to do a live Screams from the Basement. We will release that as an episode in September. But what we are doing is top 10 Brink Stevens movies. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a ton of fun because she has like
200,
like over 200 credits.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to wane that down to like 10 movies, and I think I have a list of like 15 ones that I've been recommended or hear people talk about to include on here.
We've enlisted the help of some experts. So
yes, we have. So that's why I've been bringing up quite a bit of Brink Stevens movies in the last couple months.
Hell yeah.
Spoilers, Delta Delta Die is probably not on that list.
That's fair. Off of your recommendation, that might not be one that I get to.
I was literally going to tell you don't have to watch
That sounds good. Yeah.
But you can if you want. The concept's
I mean,
pretty fun.
I might eventually, like, yeah.
Maybe if you're like, okay, I caught up on all of them. I got time to fit in one or two more.
Exactly.
That's the one. Which ones have you watched? I'm just gonna ask.
I have watched Teenage Exorcist.
Great movie.
Which is amazing. Oh my God. What's the other one? I'm trying to think. It's one that you've already seen.
Okay.
Which ones have you seen? Is it?
Let's see. I've watched Teenage Exorcist. Sorry.
Because that's the one with Eddie. That's the one with Eddie Deasing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one's so fun.
Did you watch Haunting Fear?
Yeah, I think that's the one.
The Poe one?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple left to watch before this. I know we have one that we have to watch together because it's very hard to find.
Yes, but we finally tracked down a copy of it.
Yes. Shout out Derek. Thank you for helping us out because I know we'll get yelled at if we don't at least talk about that movie on the list. But I think that's it for my doobie doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam, what about you? What have you been doobie doing?
God, it's been so busy, man. I've been trying to doobie do stuff, and it's just like not working in my favor. So the only thing I have besides those two Shyamalan movies and our main topic is I checked out the new Statham. Well, not the new one, but I checked out one of the new Statham movies.
There's a different new one?
The Beekeeper. Well, there's the Expendables 4. I want to say, I don't know. He's been coming out with like 2 or 3 a year, man. It's nuts. That's crazy. Like hardest working man in Hollywood.
Train, I guess. Yeah,
he is. So the Beekeeper is a collaboration between Statham, director David Ayer, and writer Kurt Wimmer, who you might know from the new Children of the Corn. I'm just gonna say that one because I love that one.
Equilibrium.
Yes, Equilibrium is the big Kurt Wimmer one. So
and it doesn't hold up.
I don't know. I haven't watched it.
All the Equilibrium fans are gonna yell at me. Does not hold up. Not a very good movie.
That's fine. I've never had a desire to like rewatch it. I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Anyways, the Beekeeper is also like, I say it's fine, but like it is a goofy kind of fine. Like I kind of like this a lot. Statham is clearly having a blast with it because he knows that it's kind of a ridiculous movie. It's basically, he is this retired government operative who is living in this old woman's barn raising bees. He's got a bee farm in this woman's barn, and that's what he does. He's a beekeeper, and he says that a bunch of times in the movie.
He's the beekeeper.
I'm a beekeeper, And as it turns out, the term beekeeper has multiple meanings. When his landlady with a heart of gold gets scammed by some telefraud insurance or some like telefraud people that clear out $2 million from a charity that she's dedicated her life to, she kills herself. Yep. That's how the movie starts. How the movie starts. And Statham, like, so her daughter is an FBI agent because of course she is. And this movie, her daughter is assigned to this case of her mother's suicide that they think Statham did it, and then they don't because like they rule it a suicide. But then there's like, oh, but cyber criminals took out her bank account, and so she's like slipping Statham information, but at the same time trying to stop him. Her motivations are all over the place. It's actually Emmy. Oh my God, from Untitled Horror Movie. Nick Simon yeah.
She's in the Netflix Umbrella Academy.
Yes. Emmy Raver Lampman. That's So she's good in it, but like, her character is like all over the place in terms of like, what's her goal? But yeah, she's got really good chemistry with Statham. Josh Hutcherson plays the villain, and he is just this like douchey crypto bro who runs these like false call centers. And he's so good in this movie. He is like, he clearly knows what type of movie he's in. He's got like the douchebag earring. He's just like, oh my God, like he's walking around in his like leopard print robe and he's just like, what is going on? You know? I loved The Beekeeper. It was so stupid. It is a perfect like Saturday afternoon matinee movie. Don't go into it expecting high art and just have a good time with it. It takes itself a little too seriously at points, but like at other times, it knows exactly what movie it is. There's a scene on a bridge that like the effect uses a crash dummy, and it's like it's a glorious scene. It's so good. So yeah, recommend The Beekeeper. I believe I watched it on Prime. So
The Beekeeper.
Yeah. The Beekeeper. Statham is God. Anyways. Yeah, so that's it. That's what I've been doing. And you know, doing prep work for 2 podcasts, 2 film fests, a live podcast recording, and an evening with Doug Jones.
Yeah, and trying to work a 40-hour job.
Yeah, and working a 40-hour job and hosting late nights and just trying to have any kind of semblance of sanity and me time whatsoever. So yeah, it's been a busy.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? We're slowly losing our minds.
It's true. People are just going to witness it week to week on this podcast. Fair warning. At least for the next 2 months.
Yeah. And then we'll get back to our normal
lunacy.
Chaos and lunacy. Yeah.
Sam, let's get into our plugs then. I'm going to, first of all, before we get to where people can listen to this, what's that second podcast you were talking about?
Yeah,
we haven't talked about it yet.
We haven't talked about it on this podcast. We're starting a new podcast because
we have enough else to do.
So, friend of the show, Doug Morano, the CEO of Bad Hand Books, has had the idea for a Bad Hand centric podcast for a while, and he asked you boys to be the hosts of it. So we are currently working on our first interviews for The Bad Signal, which is going to be talking to authors and artists and different people who have worked with Bad Hand and have upcoming releases. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a little bit, different of a topic than what we're typically covering on this show. I know we've covered interviewed authors before, but I don't know. This feels different in a way that, I mean, I'm sure we'll get even more fleshed out as we go on with it.
Yeah. It'll be a different show than this show.
Yeah, it's going to be a different show than this show, and it's going to be fun and it's going to be cool. And we're really excited. We're happy to be collaborating with Doug. He's doing some really cool stuff at Bad Hand, and I don't know. We're stoked to be a part of it. So.
Yeah, more details to come.
Yeah. Anyways.
And, hey, if people want to stay up to date on those details, they should follow us on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that shithole. And you can also follow us on TikTok. TikTok has been going pretty well. We've been on that on the regular. But again, just simply search Screams from the Basement on any of those social media platforms, and you can find us there. Sam, where can they subscribe to this podcast?
Well, you can subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify. And for the video portion of this show, you can watch us on YouTube. And if you do, hit the subscribe button.
Smash it.
If you're listening to us on like Apple or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Say mean things about us if you want, but leave a 5-star review. It helps us. It helps get more eyes on the pod. And it means that you guys have more horror friends to hang out with when you're listening to our pod.
Yes.
And showing up to our events.
Yes. You can check out some of our merch on TeePublic. Again, just search Screens from the Basement or go to any of our social media platforms and you can find the link there. And then use our Fangoria affiliate link. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/Screens from the Basement. Use promo code Screens from the Basement. Save yourself 20% on anything Fangoria related. Speaking of Fangoria, though, I'm going to use this as our transition out of here.
Okay.
Next week, we have our interview with Courtney Joyner, Quadrant. 2 weeks from now, what do we have, Sam?
Oh, yeah. Our next episode.
Yes.
We are going to be joined by Katie Afridi. I'm blanking on the host's actual name.
Afridi, that's it.
Afridi. Katie Afridi.
Yeah.
Katie Afridi of the Katie Afridi podcast.
Yeah.
On the Fangoria Network will be joining us to talk some like not kinder trauma really, because they're like made for TV kids movies, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we're talking some my dyslexic ass. We're talking some R.L. Stein. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Mostly ghostly and the haunting hour.
Yeah, this is going to end up being 2 R.L. Stein episodes in a row that we'll have on this podcast feed. So all those right. 90s and 2000 kids, this next month is for you.
Yeah. It's going to be rad.
It's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a chaotic episode. Just sit back, enjoy. You don't even need to watch these movies. We'll watch them for you and we'll break them down. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, and if you want a preview of what to expect, definitely check out the Katie Afridi podcast because it's a blast.
Ton of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get a feel of what our episode with her will be.
Yeah. Very excited.
Sam, do we have anything else we need to throw out there before we finish up for this episode?
No, I don't think so. I don't got anything
All right,
else.
let us go get some sleep. I'm saying that right now. We need some sleep. We need some rest. We got some busy weeks ahead of us. But again, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. We will see you next time on the Screens from the Basement podcast. Sam, give us that sign off.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And sweet screams.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.